So what's the problem with Ozempic? And what does that have to do with hypnosis? Hi, I'm Dave Ruby from Work Hypnosis. And this video is obviously about Ozempic, but also in kind of a post-Ozempic world. Where does something like hypnosis fit in? And for anyone who's looking to basically find out if you should take Ozempic or not, if you should consider hypnosis or other modalities, and maybe how those two kind of fit in, or if you're a hypnotist and you're wondering, well, where does this leave me and my clients? You come to the right place. But before I get started, I did want to point out a few caveats. First of all, what this video isn't. What this video isn't is it's not a video to bash Ozempic or any other solution. It's really more to give you some information. So no fear mongering, no presenting this is bad and my solution is the answer, but really to give you information on how to make the best decision for you. And if it works for you, then great, use it. But here's some information you may find useful and of some value. So next, I want to point out that what this video actually is about. First of all, this is a discussion about Ozempic and about hypnosis. It's not necessarily giving you like a singular answer. So we'll look at what's good about Ozempic because there's a lot, and it's been pretty successful. It's changed a lot of people's lives. What shortcomings it has because nothing's perfect per se. And when you look at those shortcomings, how do we address those? And then after look at that, where does hypnosis and coaching, nutrition, other modalities, how does all that kind of fit together? How is it part of a larger conversation? So first of all, a brief story on Ozempic. We'll call him Joe. Joe's actually a stand-in name for at least a couple of people I know who've used Ozempic, but there's an actual person that did this where I was visiting my dad and Joe was there. We'll call him Joe. And he lost a ton of weight. And I pointed out to him like, well, I haven't seen you in a while. And you've gotten much smaller. And his response was basically he started taking Ozempic and made amazing changes. And I was like, well, that's cool. So I asked him about it, genuinely like, well, what was your experience like? And with his experience was he took the shot and just simply ate less. It was exactly as easy and as miraculous as it sounds. Any of the positive stories you've heard, that's exactly what it was like. He didn't mention any side effects. He did say that he basically just wasn't hungry. And sometimes he actually had to remind himself, oh yeah, I should eat some food. Not in a bad way, not in a dangerous way, but it just wasn't a big deal. So he's a happy, successful client. He's exactly the kind of billboard you want for a business that does this. So that's just to point out that it does work. There are absolute success stories that are just as compelling as this guy's. So what's actually wrong with Ozempic? And this is not meant to bash it, but there are some things that aren't great about it, or at least that aren't perfect. Nothing is. But first off, with Ozempic, it just works. It does what it does, and that's all. It's not bad. However, what doesn't Ozempic do? Well, it doesn't actually teach you how to eat or how to change behaviors. It just makes you not hungry. As a result, you eat less and you lose weight, which is, to be fair, exactly what it's supposed to do. There are some caveats to that, though. If you have nutritional needs that aren't being met, those still remain. So you'll need, protein for muscle growth and repair and for maintenance, certain nutritional needs, vitamins, minerals, and so on. That's important because if you have improper eating, if you're having like improper nutrition already, well, if you take those same improper eating habits and you just shrink it down, you can take like a minor deficit of certain vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and make that a bigger deficit. Which, if you're eating too much, it may not be as big a deal. If you're eating a large amount less over time, that can be a much bigger deal. And there's a cautionary tale. If you look up on the internet, there's a singer named Avery, and with the caveat that she took Ozempic, which is a prescription drug, she took it without a prescription, without any kind of doctor's input, no supervision, And basically, she tried to, I think she was already probably like pretty healthy weight. And she lost weight to basically appeal to what the record company was kind of pressuring her to look like. And she got a chronic bone thinning disease that's permanent. So in this case, like she's got a very serious condition because of Ozempic. However, that was because she was doing it in a way that may have been unhealthy and may have taken some nutritional deficiencies and kind of compounded them. That's not going to be the same case with someone who's seeing a doctor and getting medical supervision, but it is to point out these aren't things that are without any kind of risk whatsoever, especially if they're abused. A couple things that, or a few things that Ozempic doesn't do is it doesn't address any underlying causes that may have led to weight gain, like emotional issues, any traumatic history, any kind of other disorders that may have factored into it. It doesn't take into consideration body composition or doesn't correct for it. So you may lose weight, but you still have to do things to like maintain or build muscle mass. Just getting skinnier or leaner may not entirely meet all your goals. That's not the fault of the drug. It's just something else to take into consideration. Two other quick ones is that it doesn't work for everybody. For a large number of people, it apparently does, and it works really, really well. However, for some people, it may not. So you may want to consider other options if it doesn't work for some people. And it's also a lifelong commitment. So it's an ongoing shot, it's an ongoing expense. And typically people take it, period, which is a bit of a downer, but it's also much better than being morbidly obese and having things like diabetes and other sort of negative side effects of that. So what's wrong with Ozempic that is what you think? If you look on the website, they do list some common side effects. The plus side is they tend to be mild to moderate, and they tend to go away, at some point. So they're not terribly long lasting. But things like nausea, diarrhea, stomach aches, vomiting, constipation, none of these are pleasant, mind you. But what it's getting rid of is obesity, which has a lot of known side effects as well. And the one major cautionary thing I would say is that we don't necessarily know the long-term side effects. Those are a bit unknown because it's still a fairly new medication. However, you have to weigh that against the consequences we do know of being obese or morbidly obese. And as of now, I'm not seeing any literature saying that there's actually any indication of like a long-term negative side effect that we aren't aware of. Like that, there doesn't seem to be anything leading down that direction, but you still don't know. The other things that I would point out are there are some possible more serious side effects just to be aware of. They're not typical, they're not as common apparently, but I won't go through all of them, but there is a risk of possible thyroid tumors, including cancerous tumors, which would be a huge deal, and things like pancreatitis, organ problems, et cetera, et cetera. So some of these are just more severe versions of the ones on the other slide, and some are different entirely, like changes in vision, low blood sugar, et cetera, things like that. So these are uncommon, but they're still kind of what you expect to look for, things like side effects of a medication. So we looked at the good, we looked at the bad, and now we're kind of left with, well, we know what Ozempic works. So where does hypnosis fit into this? Well, hypnosis and NLP, neurolinguistic programming, and techniques like that, they're more for addressing the underlying causes. They address like the underlying programming, if you will, of your brain. And hypnosis generally changes three classifications of things, three categories. That's feelings, behaviors, and thoughts. And feelings can be good or bad. They can, help you let go of stress and anger, anxiety. They can also increase happiness, excitement, satisfaction. And it can also be used for getting rid of pain. Specifically, chronic pain is a common one for hypnosis. Behaviors, what do you want to do less of? What do you want to do more of? You may want to do less of negative eating habits, or less of things like smoking or drinking too much. You may want to do things more like more exercise, better sleeping habits, spending time in nature, things like that. And thoughts would be, well, your thoughts. How do you think about things? Do you have thoughts that make you feel upset about the world and lead to eating for emotional reasons? Are you able to have thoughts that make you feel more satisfied about yourself, feel more relaxed, have a happy, better life? And the other thing to go with that is when you use hypnosis for these things, while you can see a coach like myself, once you learn these techniques, they're things, it's a skill set. They're things you can actually use for the rest of your life. It's not just a treatment modality where you see someone and get fixed. It's something that someone guides you through, and you can learn these things and start to use them for your own. Not a bad idea. So again, hypnosis and NLP, they work with your unconscious mind to support a more global, healthy overall lifestyle. It's not just taking a shot to be less hungry. It is, or it can be certainly, a way to address more global changes from a wide variety of sources. It helps you address underlying causes. It doesn't just remove symptoms, or at least it doesn't have to. What it arguably should do is look at what's causing that and give your unconscious a better plan. When you do that, then you have better feelings, behaviors, and thoughts about things that lead to a more happy, satisfying life. So again, it can also support new behaviors that Ozempic won't, like exercise, eating healthier choices of food, even as you're eating less, finding and engaging in things that activities or whatever to make your life better. So Ozempic will help you lose weight by not being hungry. However, hypnosis can do something a little bit more than that, broader in scope potentially. It also does change without medication, and the change can be long lasting. So you don't need to go back for prescription. And again, by addressing underlying causes, you may achieve longer lasting global changes, which is ostensibly a really good thing. And again, hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, meditation, EFT tapping, different modalities, those are skill sets. They're things that you get to use. So it's not just you're changing one thing and you're done. It's you get to learn something, you get to change something within your unconscious mind that makes the changes for you that can be lifelong and it can be compounded in a positive way. And once you know it, it's yours. So moving along, there are things that hypnosis can't do. I'm a hypnotist. It's a wonderful modality. It's also not perfect. Unfortunately, hypnosis is not a magic wand because nothing is. However, sometimes the results can feel like it. Hypnosis can be very magical and people can have incredible results and it feels amazing. Sometimes they're more subtle. Sometimes it doesn't feel amazing. Sometimes it's good and it may not feel like a earth-shattering event. However, even then, sometimes the results can be. It can feel just natural because when you make unconscious changes, that's who you are. After a while, when you're eating healthy and you're going to the gym and you're healthier and you're feeling good, well, that's just who you are now. And it doesn't necessarily occur to you till after the fact when you look back and go, oh, well, I lost 30, 40, 50 pounds. I've made these changes and it feels normal, but it's an ocean difference from how you were before. But similar to Ozempic, hypnosis on its own won't magically correct poor eating or exercise habits that weren't there. There are things you may want to change, and hypnosis can help with that. But I can't just snap my fingers and suddenly you know exactly what to eat, and you have exercised for years and eaten for the appropriate types of foods for a decade. That's not quite how it works either. But it can help you to make those choices and make that change and to start to eat better, exercise, go out and do things and have a more fulfilling life, ideally. But as it says, you don't know what you don't know. So even if you make a change with hypnosis or anything, if you're not sure how to eat properly and factor in nutrition, track things, perhaps diet, exercise, find someone who can teach you that. That's something that may be important to, give your unconscious mind some more stuff to work with. But hypnosis can't help you to do all that. It can help support you in that new way of life. So my own personal story, just in real brief, is that hypnosis was great to change my mindset, it helped me to change my unconscious patterns. Just as a sort of a alternate story or a complementary story to the guy that I know that did Ozempic, um, hypnosis did a similar thing in that it changed what I did. It didn't correct my poor knowledge base, my poor planning. So initially, it didn't do what it was supposed to do because I had the wrong programming. It helped me to be confident in doing what I thought I should be doing, but I still had to kind of tweak the programming, so to speak. So I ate less food, but also ate the appropriate foods, built in exercise, and it all started working together. So once I did that, the results were actually very straightforward and pretty easy, in fact. So I do have a few client stories just to share too, just in case you're wondering how hypnosis works compared to Ozempic. There are two clients in particular that had, I think, comparable results. One of the clients that I'm still in touch with, he's approaching 100 pounds of weight loss and still going strong. And in his case, it was very much a simple matter of working with the unconscious mind to change what food meant to him and how much of it he actually needed. And he knew what to do essentially. He was committed to eating appropriately. And once that change happened, it was literally not literally shit, but it was basically this like snap the fingers and it was done. And subsequent sessions kind of helped reinforce that. But he's down closing in 100 pounds last I checked, and in a pretty quick amount of time and a healthy speed. So that I think is pretty comparable to what you would want with Ozempic. You don't want to lose too much too fast. Another client, last time I talked to her, she lost 50 pounds in about a little under 5 months. Last I checked her with her, and her doctor said things are going great. It was easy for her. So sometimes when you get your unconscious mind working, it can really be an easy thing because you address why you're eating in a way that's not to your benefit, and suddenly things start to change. When you do that, for some people, it works really, really well like that. So again, sometimes only one thing really is the answer, or that one thing really makes the change. But the point being is, it's not to sell you on one thing over the other per se. It's that whatever's right for you is what's right for you. So one other thing I've noticed in the literature is that oftentimes hypnosis is starting to be combined with other things, not just necessarily on its own. So in psychotherapy, you see more of CBT and EBT being used with hypnosis. So they kind of complement each other. So we know Ozempic curbs hunger right away, but it doesn't necessarily help with all the other changes per se. And I say hypnosis might work on its own. For some people, it absolutely does work really well on its own. Uh, but it's possible that for some people, hypnosis and Ozempic might work really well together. Ozempic can work at curbing the hunger right away. Hypnosis can help with the underlying things while also implementing and helping support new behaviors, new thought processes, and any kind of underlying issues. It helps you to work through that. And meanwhile, even if you're taking Ozempic, hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming and any kind of behavioral change software you have going on or programs, those help cement in new learnings. While the medication does what it does, hypnosis can help you to make those internal changes so that you change how your unconscious mind works. And then you have this new way of being. And once you're leaner and you're eating healthier and you're doing whatever activities, hypnosis makes that a permanent part of who you are. That's important because if you ever decide to go off Ozempic, where other people might, gain the weight back, you get to make that who you are. So with or without Ozempic, that gets to be how you are. So sometimes one modality very much supports the other. And in this case, hypnosis could be one that would be a good match with these kind of medications. So to recap, full disclosure, Ozempic's really good. It's good at what it does. It's very effective for a large number of people. There are some side effects, and it does generally take an ongoing commitment, but it does work. And it's important to consider what side effects and what effects there are with medication with what the effects are of how your body currently is if you're struggling with weight. Hypnosis, NLP, modalities of that nature, they offer a drug-free alternative, which a lot of people find attractive, or an adjunct that can make things even more effective, especially if you're curbing your hunger and you're adding appropriate exercise and appropriate activities and working on yourself so you just have a more healthy disposition overall. And in addition to just the medicine, this can offer a skill set you can take with you for life. And I feel like most people, we all have issues. No one really gets through life without them. Hypnosis helps you to address those. So it's not just attacking or addressing the symptom of hunger and eating too much. It's everything attached to that that a medication, respectfully on its own, probably won't do. So also consider that coaching and education can help you to fill in any kind of gaps in your knowledge base. So Ozempic is great for curbing hunger. Hypnosis is great for feelings, behaviors, and thoughts and underlying issues and all sorts of things in that nature. But you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. So if there are any kind of gaps, or if you're doing you think you should be doing and it's not working, consider working with an expert that can help you to know if your plan is actually appropriate or not. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But in closing, hopefully, if you found this useful, use this to make an informed decision. And the second point, do what's right for you. It would be a real injustice if myself or anyone else sold you on a plan that wasn't what was right for you. So do some soul searching and do what's the most appropriate thing for you, not what someone sells you on, but what's right for you. Consulting with a doctor is always going to be a good idea, especially if you're using medication or if you're doing something like hypnosis or any kind of therapeutic modality, or making any kind of change to your diet and nutrition and exercise. Your doctor knows you better than a stranger on the internet, respectfully. That said, if you have any questions on hypnosis, you're welcome to contact either myself or my partner, Gina, at Oracle Hypnosis, and the URL and email address are on the screen. Or if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. But whether you want to be a client or not, if you have any questions, if you have any questions, we welcome them. So feel free to let us know. Thanks much. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.